Hello, church family. So good to be with you this afternoon. I'm here with Josh McCullers, and we're going to be putting Josh forward as an elder candidate here at Sunrise coming up in just a few weeks. And we wanted to take a few minutes and just let you get to know Josh. So we're going to have a little bit of Q&A and talk a little bit about what it means to be an elder. And I want to start us out by reading 1 Timothy 3. This is 1 Timothy 3, verses 1 through 7. It says, "The saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to the office of overseer, he desires a noble task. Therefore, an overseer must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not a drunkard, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. He must manage his own household well with all dignity, keeping his children submissive. For if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for God's church? He must not be a new convert, or he may become puffed up and conceited and fall into the condemnation of the devil. Moreover, he must be well thought of by outsiders, so that he may not fall into disgrace, into a snare of the devil." So these are the qualifications that Paul lays out for what we're looking for in a leader. And you may have noticed or even heard us talk about before, really when you're looking for an elder, most of these things, except for the one qualification that says he's one who's able to teach, these are character qualifications. And so that's what we're really looking for as we look around our church and say who is capable and who is doing the work really of eldering. And so we feel like it's our responsibility as church leaders to always be on the lookout for who's doing that kind of work and who fits the biblical qualifications amongst us. And this is also your responsibility. Just to remind you, we are a congregational church, and what that means is on certain matters, the final authority for our church rests in the hands of the congregation, and that's why this is a matter that will be put to a vote. And we are asking and putting Josh forward for approval, but that's ultimately in your hands as a congregation. So that's what we're doing here this afternoon. So Josh, thanks so much for taking a few minutes this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And joining us. To get us started, why don't you tell us just a little bit about your history, maybe how you came to Christ, what you've been up to the last few years, and how you ended up here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, so I grew up in South Florida, Martin County, specifically in a town called Jensen Beach. Grew up there, and about 18, I became a Christian. So I grew up going to church, did not grow up living the lifestyle of like a true, genuine Christian who goes to church, but I definitely went and attended and got in all sorts of trouble all the time at church until I was about 18. So my senior year of high school, like a number of things took place, and it was just really clear, I think with my background, having grown up in the church and, hearing sermons and hearing the word, I knew what God was doing in like these different circumstances that were taking place, and I just recognized like God wanted me to submit to him and stop living like this. I don't even think I was really living a hypocritical lifestyle necessarily. I just was living like a non-Christian who went to church. And so I don't know if that counts as a hypocritical lifestyle, but that's kind of what I was doing. So at 18, it just kind of clicked though. Turned to the Lord at that point, and it was pretty radical like shift in terms of like my whole life. Whether it was just lifestyle choices or even trajectory of my life. I was planning on actually moving to Jacksonville back then and going to UNF until I became a Christian. Just knowing my own background, I realized if I go there, I'm just going to end up like right back where I was in that old lifestyle that I was living. So kind of course changed and ended up doing some community college for a couple years, ended up going to Moody Bible Institute. I was pursuing pastoral ministry at the time.
Moody's in...
Moody's in Chicago, but they had, we don't need to get into all the details of it, but they had a campus in Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
And so I lived in the Pacific Northwest for 5 years. So originally I was just going to spend a year out there and then shift over and finish my time in Chicago at their campus there, but I really enjoyed the Pacific Northwest, so I just stayed and ended up living out there for about 5 years. And then after I graduated from Moody, I went on staff at Moody for a couple years, and then ended up going to Southern Seminary. And so I spent 3 years at Southern Seminary. had another little turning point while I was there. I was thinking about doing a PhD program. I ended up taking a pastoral position in California. So I went like back out west and was in the San Francisco Bay Area for, we were out there for 7 years. And so all of, I guess Theo was actually born while we were in Louisville. So I know we're kind of jumping ahead, but we have 4 kids. And actually, we have 1 on the way.
Congrats.
So, yep, we are expecting another one in September. So, all sorts of feelings with that. But we're getting excited slowly but surely.
Tax breaks, right?
Yeah, for the tax break. Yes, yeah. So, anyways, yeah, we had Theo in Louisville, which is where Southern Seminary is. And then the rest of our kids were born in California. So, yeah, we were out there for 7 years. Number of different things happened at the church. I stepped away from ministry and we moved to Jacksonville because we have like our families here. So my parents are here, my brother's here, my older and younger brother are both here. I actually work with my older brother now. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of years, and that's what brought us here to Jacksonville. Specifically what brought us to Sunrise was when we would come and visit my parents, like we would just check out churches in the area.
Yeah.
And we came and visited Sunrise probably, I think it was like 2021 or something like that. And we kind of had it in our head, like, man, if we ever were to move to Jacksonville, we would want to be at Sunrise. So kind of a cool little story there.
That is cool. I want to chase that down, but backing up just for a second, you and Amanda, when did you guys meet?
We met in Washington. So, yeah, we met in Washington. And I wanted to get married to her more quickly than her parents would permit. So they really wanted her to finish school first. So we waited. We finished, or I had finished. I'd been done for about a year. And I was like doing an internship at our church. I was on staff at Moody. And then when she graduated in 2013, that's when we ended up getting married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And she graduated from Moody as well. Missiology, that was her degree?
Yeah, she was like a cross-cultural degree. She had spent a lot of time doing like short-term trips. She'd done a couple of more extended trips in Spain. And so she's spent a lot of time in Spanish. So she was thinking about doing that until we met. And I don't know Spanish, and I don't necessarily have a huge like earnest desire to live across, the continent or in a different continent or something like that. So we settled with California.
Yeah. There you go.
It's kind of cross-cultural ministry.
It is. It really is. I lived there for 6 years. I know. That's not untrue. So talking about what it means. I mean, you heard me read the passage here a minute ago, 1 Timothy 3. And just as an elder myself, I mean, I read this, and it's a pretty high bar. Like, what goes through your head as you think about the role, the qualifications, responsibility of being a shepherd? What is that? How does that strike you, and what's your understanding of what that responsibility entails? Maybe some of the things that excite you, maybe some of the things where you feel the weight of that responsibility as well. What goes through your head when you hear that?
Yeah, I think you get kind of both. You get the weightiness, you also get the excitement. I think on the weightiness side of it, and you've obviously been in pastoral ministry a lot longer than I have, but when you spend a good amount of time in the church, especially serving in the church or on staff in a church, you see people fall. And it's pretty weighty because you see that happen, and it's like, it's life altering, and so in that sense, there is like kind of a sobriety and almost like there's some scariness to it. Yeah. When I've seen people just completely wreck their lives, and it's like everything about their life changed. Everything about the trajectory of their life changed. And so there is a huge weightiness to it. I think of Acts 20, where Paul's talking to the Ephesian elders, and he spent years with these guys, and he's talking to them for the very last time, and he's telling them, hey, like, there are going to be wolves that come into the church, and he even says that, like, even amongst yourselves, like, some of you are going to turn into wolves. or you're already there and you're kind of doing a good job masking it. And so there's some weightiness and scariness to that. I know with any sort of responsibility, I think Satan utilizes that to bring in temptation. So that's more of like the weightiness side of it. On the excitement side of it, frankly, like I wasn't necessarily planning on leaving pastoral ministry. There was a number of things that happened where we were kind of put in a spot where we had to like make a decision really fast, and we didn't necessarily feel comfortable like with some. There were a few positions we were looking at, but we didn't necessarily feel comfortable at that time like making that sort of decision of moving across the country and joining a different church. In our timeline, we just didn't have a ton of time to make that decision. So we came here, and with that, I think we there are things that I miss. I miss the shepherding side of it. I miss caring for people. I did a lot of counseling in my last role. Got to teach and preach on a weekly basis, and so those things, you miss them. And so I do look forward to the opportunity to care for people, have that sort of role and responsibility of shepherding and discipling and spending time with people in that sense.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Josh has been attending most of our elders meetings, I guess, for the last 5 or 6 months.
Something like that.
Yeah. We've invited him in just to be a part of conversations, and part of what we want to maintain. We want to give him an opportunity to get to know us as well, and just kind of how we function and operate and work, and it gives us a chance as elders to watch you and interact a little bit with issues related to our church and just how we think. And every team kind of has its own personality, and I feel like you fit really well into that. Even some of the nerdy conversations we've had about some of the finer points of theology, we just seem to have a lot of alignment, which has been pretty cool.
Yeah, that's been helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Very good. So what would you say, I remember a few years ago, Paul Tripp wrote a book called Dangerous Calling. I was thinking about that. And he was talking about the pastoral office, the elder office, and how just a lot of people, just exactly what you said, don't end up making it out of that. I don't have a book in front of me, but I think it was like 3 out of 4 guys that endorsed that book on the back are no longer in ministry.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that once.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's like the people who endorsed the book.
About the dangerous calling.
And it's one thing when you step out of ministry for just whatever. I think of myself, like you step out of ministry because of just life circumstances, or maybe you're just like, I don't think this is the right vocation for me. I know some guys are in that boat.
Right.
Whereas like it's a different thing to like leave ministry because you're unqualified.
Yeah.
It's sad, but
yeah. How have you processed that? Just even seeing some of the maybe high profile people maybe that you used to read or listen to, respect, and then all of a sudden, something comes out that there's been something underneath the surface that people didn't see. How have you thought through that?
Yeah, it's hard because I think when I was younger, I'll say that when I was younger, I had like it was almost like the people who fall, like there's something wrong with like their theology or something. That was kind of that's what I often saw. Like people make lifestyle failures often because like their theology there's something corrupt there. But then when you see like people that you look at and you go, I don't know of any like theological issues there. It's just he did something really dumb, and unfortunately that's happened quite a few times in the last few years with these high profile people that would align with us as a church just falling. It's hard. So I think what I've kind of come back to, and this is something that I had thought about like years ago, but I think that it's not always the case that like bad theology leads to a bad lifestyle. right? Like it's like I guess the more technical way to put it is like you have this relationship between orthodoxy and orthopraxy,
Right.
like what you believe and how you live. And I think a lot of times the temptation is to think that it's how you believe, what you believe, that leads to bad living. So bad orthodoxy leads to bad orthopraxy. But I think the opposite is true at times, where sometimes it's like the bad lifestyle leads you to, it's almost like that's what motivates like poor theology.
I see. Yeah.
You know?
I think that could happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I think of some people, you know, where you're kind of looking at it and you start scratching your head. I wonder where he's getting that from.
Yeah.
And then it comes out a couple years later that like, oh, well, that's where he's getting it from. He's living like that, and he was kind of altering his theology. So
Yeah.
I think it's there has to be like a life and doctrine evaluation that you're constantly doing, where you're evaluating your doctrine, making sure you're shoring things up, and then at the same time, which I think is why 1 Timothy 3 like focuses so much on
The character.
the orthopraxy side, the character side. Like you have to
Right.
also maintain that side of things.
Yeah, that's really good, and that's why Paul encouraged Timothy to watch your life and your doctrine.
Yes.
You know, both
Right.
sides of that.
Right.
It's not just your life or just your doctrine. Greg Strand has said there's orthodoxy, what you believe, orthopraxy, what you do, and he puts a middle category. He said there's what he calls orthocardia, right-heartedness,
Yeah, there you go.
which I think is actually kind of helpful
Actually, yeah.
category.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that's helpful because sometimes there's, to that point, like I would say there are some people that I get along with more, like like as a Christian. Like I line up with this guy more because of the right-heartedness or whatever, orthocardia, whatever.
Orthocardia, yeah.
Whatever he calls it.
Cardiologist, yeah.
Where it's like why do I get along with this pastor more than this pastor when like I agree with this pastor a lot more on orthodoxy issues.
Yeah.
Even though with this guy, like we're kind of at odds on a lot of things, but I think it's because of there's like humility, there's a good heart there.
Right.
And it's like, man, if we disagree on some things, like we can at least line up really well in terms of just character and like demeanor, posture.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that about people. So I've never heard that, but I think that kind of lines up with my experience.
I think it's helpful. I think it's a helpful way to think. Well, that's helpful. Yeah, maybe one more question here. With coming on like as an elder, assume like Amanda's on board. We've talked a little bit about that. She's excited about that opportunity. Is there anything like anything else you would want like church family to know about you, about your life, about your desire, kind of what you want to see happen? I don't see when we bring somebody on as an elder, it's not necessarily to revolutionize anything. It's really to and you seem to kind of want to grab an oar and like row in the direction we're already going. Is that
yeah. I've been in contexts where it's almost like the expectation is like you're coming to be a visionary or something.
Yeah.
And I never really like found a lot of camaraderie in that sort of mindset in the church. For good or bad, I don't know. It's like I just never. That's not really where I fell. I typically was like in the more like, hey, I want to be faithful. I want to be consistent. I want to be steady.
Yep.
I want to be reliable, dependable.
Right.
That side of things, you know. And so I think in terms of where I'm coming from, that's more so like the mindset I have. It's not necessarily, hey, let's come and revolutionize things and change things. And it's like, hey, how can we just be faithful to this congregation, minister well, be consistent? So that's where I'm coming from.
Very good. Hebrews 13, verse 7, it says, "Remember your leaders, those who spoke to you the word of God. Consider the outcome of their way of life and imitate their faith." And this is challenging for me as a church leader. I think it's challenging for someone we would put forward as a church leader. What we're saying is consider the outcome of their way of life and imitate their faith. We're putting somebody forward and saying, nobody's perfect but Jesus. Let's recognize that. But we're saying they're following the Lord. Imitate them as they imitate Christ. And so there's something worth imitation there. and that really is what we're trying to put forward and trying to do. Well, Josh, thanks so much. It's been fun.
Yeah, appreciate
hanging out a little bit, nerding out a little bit on some theology. We'll do it again another time, I'm sure.
Yep.
So coming up on June 28th will be our congregational meeting. We're going to do a mid-year meeting, and we'll be talking more about that. We have a time coming up in a couple of weeks where we're going to be talking, doing another Q&A style thing for Equipping Hour. And then you'll actually be preaching on the 17th. That was already scheduled before we scheduled all of this as well. So you guys are going to have plenty of opportunities to get to know Josh. If you have any questions, thoughts, please reach out to me, reach out to Josh, any of the elders, and we would love to talk more. God bless. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.